I was like,
That was
I
very
can't even
Smeagol
think.
of you.
It was? Oh, it is.
Because he goes back and forth.
Thank
back and forth. We just
you.
need to like rock back and forth.
Yeah, and eat raw
Naked
fish.
in a cave.
Eat raw fish. Shafifa, shafifa. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Renee Leonard Kennedy, how are you?
Anna Gray Smith, I'm fine. I thought, why don't we do a quick rundown of what our lives have been like in the last 24 hours. I'm doing this holy work journaling thing, and it's so wonderful because it really makes you look at the top layers of what you're thinking about, and it's turned into, dear Abba Father prayers. But telling him, which I do on my walks in the evening, but it's really neat because it uncovers all the worries and the stuff. But you tell me.
Me? I think you should go first since I feel like you're already into it. Yeah.
Oh,
Take the mic.
So, I'm
Keep going.
I'm editing the novel to submit because they're waiting for it, and I'm getting really super close, but I went in the original and I went, oh my goodness, I have all this back here, and the plot had changed. And I'm like, but this is useful. This is I know I'm going to need it. But all of a sudden it was like a puzzle, and I couldn't see anymore, even though I'm doing a reverse outline where I'm outlining on cards, and I could set the cards out in front of me. But my mind was just blowing last night. Yesterday, even outside, I was working outside. It was so beautiful. And I just couldn't. I was like, okay, there's the scene, and I'm walking, I'm talking to Lord, there's a scene. It's a nice scene. There's no conflict. What is the conflict? Where's the thing I can bring in here to have conflict? Because you have to have it. And I'm like, my mind, I can't figure it out. And it wasn't stress. I was just talking to Abba Father. Had written about it in the morning before I went to church, and just I had given it over to him, and I just kept. I strode to the barn. I actually strode. Like STRODE. I was walking, and talking to the Lord, and so in that, there was this thing like, I can't figure that out tonight. I give this to you. An answer will come. And it was like total trust. It was so wonderful. I just trusted that, the Lord would bring the answer, that the answer would be there.
So you strode to the barn, and then you're like...
I still didn't have the answer. But I woke up this morning,
through the fields.
No, and I was walking by the beautiful hay mow that's been baled. Hence, the reason I have Kleenex, that in our topic...
Sponsored by Kleenex.
Yeah, well, whoever made that, I don't know. Oh, I guess it is Kleenex. But no, and it just. But this morning I woke up and I still didn't have it, and I sat down to do my holy work journaling, and poof, there it was.
The scene?
Yeah.
So you got it.
I knew exactly what needed to happen.
Is that what you were doing this morning, tucked away?
I do the journaling, and then I made a list of. I just have a list running that I could put, a notes list that I can use, and it just went do. This is what you're going to do. So it all was laid out and how I was going to tie it in, and when these other things were going to come to play. So it was great. It was like the pieces of the puzzle came together. That last part where. You're like boom, 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 and everything just comes together. So it was really, really nice.
So is that how your last 24 hours? Would you say it was chaotic, and then suddenly you surrendered it in your fields and all the stars aligned? Do you think taking it was like taking the stress off, so you weren't thinking about it so much?
Yeah, it was. It was amazing because I think through this journaling process, which I did anyways. But it's more structured, and he's having not structured as much as being more thoughtful and listening to the Lord about, which I did. A lot of times I can just go blah, 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 but not, make space for God's voice. And I felt like it was more, okay, I don't have the answer. I don't have to have the answer. My brain cannot exceed expectations, and we sat around eating sushi. I think what I'm beginning to see, but this will be for the commentary later, but it was in the living of life and just quieting the soul and knowing that it was back there. And yeah.
That's like really profound though.
It was. But it's really science.
It's like not putting the pressure on yourself and then suddenly just everything.
But even the Lord wired up our brains. I mean, all our stuff.
It was all just suppressed for a couple hours.
Well, it wasn't even suppressed as much as I think, there's parts of our brain that work on it when we don't even know. Because our bodies function without me saying, oh, wow, that mitochondria needs to do this today. So what about you?
Wow. No, it's like such a profound thought. Because, okay, on that note, you're saying like your brain remembering everything. It's interesting how I think we almost like wait for so many things in life, like permission to do something when we have what we need inside of us the entire time. We just maybe haven't, fully accessed it yet or don't know that it's there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I agree.
Some philosophical morning
I agree with you. It's like God hasn't brought it to light yet.
Yeah. But it's like,
maybe it's the trust thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Trusting thyself. Yeah. I feel that.
Well, trusting him.
Yeah.
So you go. What? Tell me about your day yesterday, Anna.
Tell me about my day.
Because I lived precariously through you.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday was really fun. I'm really tired today, though, because, like, the weekend was back to back to back to back. But it was good. Like, I interestingly feel like my day started similar to yours and your, hands up in the field moment. Because I put so much pressure on myself for things that are important to me. And so obviously my photography work goes into that. So whether it's a wedding, headshots for my own mother, which I told you in a recording.
Which was shocking
I was getting this
to
angst,
me.
like, what if I suddenly like doubting everything that I know I can do?
Did you have that when you did the great photos for me?
Yeah, 100%.
You had that?
Yeah. Well, and I forgot my camera on the way, so I had to meet Mom. Who brought it
right.
to
But
me.
It felt so natural and great.
Once I'm actually shooting and I'm doing the thing, it's fine.
It's like dancing.
Yeah.
Once we're out there a couple times.
Once I'm out there maybe 5,000 times. But I had like an easy morning, but just my thought process was thinking about so much. I don't know, just like overthinking life, I think. And I was really exhausted. But I also, in my head, was like, mentally rehearsing everything that could go wrong and like double checking all my gear as I do. Yeah, every time. I gaslight myself before any shoot. And I'm like, even though I just double checked the memory card slots 5 times, let me check again in case they raptured. And so...
Just in case that 4th time I really didn't understand.
Yeah, exactly. And the batteries, let me double check those. And wow, my OCD tendencies meets paranoia. It's great. But yeah, I had a 4-hour shoot with one of our lovely teachers, and her daughter for some of her winter apparel.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so we.
But tell me what you said when you walked into the house.
Oh my gosh!
Because you said I can come over to the farm and we'll podcast early. I said, oh, good, I'll have sushi waiting. And then you walked in, and you really shocked me with what you said, because I never thought about it.
What did I say?
About the physicality of it all. Of shooting, of being a photographer.
How sore I was?
Yeah.
Like, it was a wonderful shoot. We got great images. Hooray. Had good light. But oh my gosh, I was so sore. Because I was sore from riding my bike. And... then on top of that, so being like leaned over for an hour, it's just like my cranium.
So your body, I mean, you use your body a lot during photography. See, I never thought about that. I just thought, some of us just stand there like I do,
and just like get tense. No, but then after shooting too, it's like everything, upper body. And
but I think about when I look at photographers, they're hunched over.
Oh my
they're
gosh.
doing weird different.
Yeah. I snacked on some ibuprofen. I went home before I came here, ate a bunch of chocolate chip muffins that I made, took some ibuprofen, and I was just like, oh.
So you raced through
calories. But
calories.
I had the steam sauna, your dear Lily's steam sauna.
Yes,
so.
there's life.
Yeah, so
there's
I'm good.
Life in there. Restoration.
I the last 24 hours, I deal with my same intrusive thoughts as usual, so day in the life.
Do you want to share one?
Not really.
Well, maybe they'll come up in our conversation.
Probably. So stubborn.
So we have, I don't even know. I just remember saying to you last night, okay, so are we still going to podcast tomorrow? And we have to do it early because I'm getting better at clearing my Monday schedule, but I just forgot on this consecutive 3 weeks. And you said, and I'm like, I know we had an idea. I said, but I know that you'll remind me or you'll tell me what it is.
Oh, God.
And you totally changed it to a really great topic.
Oh, I changed it? I didn't know we had
No,
one.
I don't know if we had one.
I don't know.
Oh, no. I mean, I don't even remember what the other one was.
I don't think we had one.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
there's a special moment for me. There's a Renee moment. I invented a
like
podcast.
The conference 24-hour notice. That's hilarious.
My
I was thinking about that in the speech bubble you had in church when I was getting ready.
Just like, hello. Yes. Okay, my brain is now woken up. So we didn't have a concept, but I bet if you scrolled through your messages, you might see, because you're like me, if they're not in the top one, I don't see. Like I always have to always go back and give somebody a keyword with mine. Like, Ezekiel.
So you go in the search and type, maybe 50 messages.
Yeah, there might be something above it that I should read.
5,000. Ooh, some fuzz.
I know. Well, that's probably Hamo. It's Hamo everywhere. That's why
some DNA from the farm.
Yeah. Join
maybe
us.
It's a coronavirus strain.
No, it's
kind of fuzzy.
Not on my farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But tell us, you have a really great topic because we were sitting around the table.
We were sitting around the table.
Talking about
we were sitting in the dark.
Talking
about men, relationships. And Lily showed us a funny video on, I think it was TikTok, where this guy, it's like a parody video, but he essentially says, maybe the reason that you can't find love is that you're the problem and people need to stay away from you. I just bust out laughing because, so honesty moment, during my last breakup, well, actually, in a courtesy call a week after to a clarity call, because I always need those.
A clarity
after
call.
A breakup, I go out strong and I'm like, oh god, I overthink, I need clarity.
I'm ready to leave. No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
Yes, no. It's the tango.
So I'm still gaslighting myself.
It's the tango.
So I had a clarity call. Yeah. And I literally quoted Taylor Swift.
Oh my goodness.
And it was kind of humorous.
Yeah.
It was like an hour phone call. Yeah. And it's like you look back and think, why did I say that?
What did you say? What was her line?
I said,
are we allowed to say that without getting sued?
Of course. Yeah. No, I just laughed in the phone call because I was confessing to some of my downfalls and sabotaging tendencies. Right. And it was a good
well, a confessional was always good.
It was. And so I just said, as Taylor Swift would say, I'm the problem. It's me. Maybe I'm the problem. And I just kind of laughed. And there was a little bit of an awkward silence. And we
and don't you love it when you're not affirmed?
I quoted number 6. And but I thought about that a lot. Yeah. Because I think it's so easy to constantly psychoanalyze things to levels where we constantly pin everyone else as being the evildoer.
Right.
And I know I can do that. And sometimes I will say, yes, we migrate to those people. Mm-hmm. And even if it's not us inherently causing the actions, it's like, okay, who are you migrating to though? But also I think there's a real healthiness in knowing thyself and looking at the pattern of things, kind of like in one of our episodes we talked about, if you have literally no friends and that's the constant issue, and when people tell me that, I can't ever find anybody, it's like maybe you're part of the problem, maybe it's your expectations, maybe so many things. So
yes, I would like to, because
I've been thinking about this,
and honestly I had lived it out because I was telling one of my daughters, because, obviously I pray for all my young people, such as you and my daughters, to have really great godly husbands in their time, in the right time. And so I was talking to her about something, just a thing that she's working on. I said, well, maybe not that she lives, she's a husband, she has to have a husband. Because that was her question. Mom, I don't have to have a husband. I said, I agree completely. I said, but you seem to be inclined towards relationship. I think it would be something to obviously,
nice idea.
Ask God about, before you shut yourself down. But I was saying maybe, and I didn't realize there was that video. And I said, maybe God's waiting for you to improve on this before, because this might not bode well in a relationship, particularly in a marital one. And she looked at me and she goes, and then I think she said something. So you're telling me I am the problem. And she was quoting the video that I had no idea existed. But the minute I said that, this is, okay, here, I'm going to teach you parenthood. I'm going to teach you exactly what parenthood is like.
Oh, yay.
The minute you discipline, you say something wise to your children. You say something and you just, or patting your back on. You have to turn it back on yourself and go, that applies to me too. And so that's what we were talking about last night. Yeah. How it applies.
It absolutely does. And, I look at it through a lot of different lenses. For me specifically, I see it in romantic relationships because those are the constant downfall. I feel I have really secure, good friendships. Like those, yes. I feel high levels of trust, empathy, loyalty, like those. Whereas for some people, those are like super difficult to navigate. Like it's hard for people to find trusted people and they constantly feel let down. I feel totally secure in my friendships, like platonic friendships. Romantic relationships though, I don't. And I, yes, in some instances, in a lot of instances, I have been drawn towards the wrong kinds of people. But also I realize that, when there's a falling out, I think it can be really easy to blame shift and constantly have to try to pin someone as like toxic or use these real buzzwords in psychology to try and make ourselves feel better. Right. Which, really with my last two relationships, this year and then a couple years ago from my European lover, they're not people I would describe as toxic in the slightest, know? And I think it's actually really healthy and okay to look at something that didn't work out and say, they're not a toxic person. Like no one's perfect, but also looking more inwardly and wondering like
what kind
did my anxiety project too much? Did my expectations, were they way too high? Was I not erring enough on the side of grace? Were actually my core wounds bleeding out into this? And
those are deep.
So I wrote a blog post a couple months ago and I labeled it underneath explicit because it's not like inappropriate, but I titled it Hit Me.
Oh.
Okay, but it has a plot twist to that.
You get
I was
banned.
Well, this is Squarespace.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so no link to social.
There's still space
but I was
there.
recalling the story of a couple years ago where I went on a date with this guy, and he was a good guy. It didn't work out for us, but I remember we just went out like one time, like we talked for a while, and I remember we were sitting in his car with the seats leaned back, and I remember he reached back. I saw him start to lean back, and I was like, "Oh God, he's gonna come towards me!" Like bracing myself. And he said, "Oh, don't worry." So I'm not trying to make a move. I'm just grabbing something from the back seat. And I kind of made it. I was like, "Okay, good, haha," So we kind of laughed it off, and we were just.
You flinched.
We were sitting. I was like, I viscerally braced. But we were sitting in his car in a vacant parking lot, which I realize sounds very sketchy, but it was fine. No Rizzo moments, I swear.
Biddy Weddy?
I said no Rizzo and Kaniki moments, I swear.
Is that from Happy
Grease. Days?
Oh!
No fogging of the window.
I forgot that.
Yeah. But,
we don't recommend that movie, right? No.
But we were having this deep conversation, and we were just like, he was talking about, his experience with women and just how he feels like he loves women back to security. And I was identifying with a lot of what he was saying. And I was like, yeah, I've realized I'm attracted to pagan narcissistic a-holes. And I find it strange to be I just was honest and I find it really hard to be in relationships where it's not like super painful. Cause that's kind of what I'm used to. Like I brace for anxiety, for this constant like push pull.
So this feels like love if it's that way.
Yeah. Like, and I was, you know, and I can say I'm not in that place anymore, but this was a few years ago when I was coming out of that place.
Right.
And he looked at me and his voice softened and he was so genuine. And he said, what can I do like to help you, you know, with that? And as far as us talking and me, this is where it gets to what we're talking about. I just laughed and I was like, have you got a bat in your trunk? You want to take a swing? Just like laughing at like, you're probably going to be just like everybody else. And it like, I laughed it off because I was joking, but clearly, you know.
What do you think you meant by that? Explain it some.
What I meant?
Yeah.
I meant as though, well, you're just probably going to be another one of these terrible people. So you may as well just go and take a swing, you know.
So you were looking totally at him.
Looking totally at him. Yeah. And he kind of like awkwardly laughed. And I remember we phone
And by the way, it's behind the tire iron.
And I remember we went back. No, we had a phone call a few days later. And I remember his voice sounded totally different. And he called me out on so many things. And I remember I felt super gutted. And a lot of things were very speculated. And I was like, that's so wrong. You're speculating. You're not even asking me before assuming these things. But he said on the phone, and I quote, he said, Anna, you're not looking for love. He's like, you just want to be tortured and in pain. You're just looking for an F boy. And I was like, whoa, because I was like, that's so far from the truth. I swear that's not what I want. Wow. And half of what he said was indeed, you know, this really, I don't want to say exaggerated, but it was definitely taken to an extreme where I was like, that's not what I want. And I remember I sat at my bedroom floor and I was with a roommate and she knocked eventually. She was like, AG, are you okay? And I'm just like, he said all these untrue things about me, Noelle, like, Daddy. But looking back, and this is where the blog post comes in. So I titled it Hit Me because, you know, you're going to think it's going to be about this like abusive relationship. But I realized, and while I ended my blog post, is, you know, he hit me as the better wounds of a friend in that moment because I had to realize.
The kiss of a friend is better than the wounds of it. And no, the wounds of a friend are better than a kiss from an enemy.
Yes. You know, and I, 2 years later, look back on that and I thought, I'm really thankful for him because even though, yes, a lot of what he said was taken to an extreme, it did have to make me realize maybe I am the walking red flag.
Right.
And I wrote that in my post. I said, you know, I had this moment when we hung up the phone where I had to go really inward and realize that even though, no, I didn't want this extreme or to be like in pain, I really was a huge part of the problem. Like I really was bringing on a lot of this stuff that I wanted out of. And I had to do this really deep inner work and deep dive. Yeah. Sorry, that's a really long tail, but.
No, I think it's pivotal in relationships, you know, particularly with the opposite sex, but, you know, in marriage and mine, I had to come to the conclusion that one, my marriage was made before the Lord, even if I wasn't a Christian at the time, but I had become a Christian. And so I held marriage at that, you know, with those standards and those values. And that you know, the idea of love, and love is a powerful, wonderful thing. But we've made love into such a heated, passionate moment, and we have forgotten the worst part. You know, we all remember the better parts. We want the first love hit. We want the endless passion. When that's the better parts, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's wonderful when you're doing it in the confines of marriage, but you know, there's the worst part when things happen, when, you know, you're not connecting, where another seems to, you know, distance you or exhibits, you know, manipulated patterns, and you respond to it and by trying to be perfect, which is also sinful.
Yeah.
You know, or a peacemaker, you become a faux peacemaker, which is also, you know, not prescribed like the Lord did. So these things, I mean, we have to think time down the road in a relationship, and I'm not talking about abusive ones, because that you just you leave those. You leave those with help, from pastors and friends. But emotional situations. You have to look at yourself, like, what am I doing? And I realized I had to commit to the Lord, my marriage, and also commit to the commitment that I made in front of him. But I was part of the problem, even though it was really, really rough, and it did end on, biblical grounds and all this stuff. And I did try to speak the truth in love. There was a point where I had to get down on my knees every night and just say, help me love him, and I would say that, and I would but I'd had to look at my failure, because it was hard. It's hard. And I think looking at yourself, looking at it, I don't know if it did anything. It didn't seem to do anything between us, obviously, because things derailed so horribly. But, I mean, not horribly, but in they'd been derailing for years. And, you fight to keep it. But, what was God doing all that time? He was doing something. He was doing something in me. I still, to this day, don't know what.
What did that look like for you? I'm so curious, like, realizing different errors on your part. Like, did you look back in the past? Was it like people you found yourself migrating to, or who you found yourself becoming as a result of migrating to these certain people?
Does
that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Okay. I've always
like two questions in one.
I've always looked back. I mean, that's one of the things you do in AA and Celebrate Recovery. You do inventory. So you inventory just about everybody in your life, that you have a deeper relationship with. And so I was in that practice of inventorying, my relationship to my mom and my dad, my relationship to my husband, my relationship before I was a Christian, and various relationships where I was just, what did you call it? The alpha female. I had no idea that I had a name.
And you have another societal label.
Well, and you have to look back, and you have to take that to the Lord and say, God, I forgive you. I mean, I forgive you. Please, I don't forgive you. I'm sorry. That was like I'm sure someone would say a Freudian slip, but that wasn't. It was me messing up, my brain not catching up with my thoughts. But I said, Lord, forgive me for using these people. And they, it wasn't fun. It was all about the capture. It was all about catching somebody's eye. It was the fight to be seen, which is a normal thing. When you think about it, our Father in heaven sees us all the time. But we want that from a person. So it was a fight and struggle to do that. It was horrible of me. So I repented of that. But in this case, I had looked back. There was a lot. I think I had to forgive. And this is where I said, I forgive you. And the reason I said I had to forgive him for a number of things that I felt that I had never acknowledged about him. And, I just assumed I was not doing enough, so I had to forgive him before I could look at me as the problem too.
That's powerful.
But I realized there was like the Holy Word Journal, there's this epidermis I needed to get rid of, and it was called him, what all he did, blah, 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 blah. And that for me to get to the muscle and the bones of it. What about your part, Renee? What is the part here you played? So it was a journey, has been.
I was going to say, does it feel like gutting, or does it feel like a slower process for you, like relief, or like?
It has felt like relief. It has felt, part of me wants to go, wow, I can't believe that I lived that way so long as a Christian. But then I also remember all the stuff that how the Lord brought me from, the queen of sinners to I'm still a sinner, but I'm saved by grace and his mercy. But I have seen what he is like, someone would try to talk me out of Christianity just on my life alone. And this is not me being arrogant. This is me saying, yes, God, thank you. Because I went from here, the pit, like living the pit of hell on earth and thinking it was heaven, to actual joy and happiness and fun, which is heaven on earth. I mean, seriously, you can't take that away from a person once they've experienced it, that didn't matter the circumstances. Yeah, I mean, there've been hard circumstances, but still, it's kind of the C.S. Lewis thing, surprised by joy in the midst of it all.
So you found that by taking inventory even of your own self, that led you to freedom and more fruition in your own.
Well, it was freedom, but it was freedom in Christ. It was freedom to laugh, to have fun, to be more me than I've ever been. Though I can be, excessive to me in the sense of I just feel like sometimes I'm just like I open my mouth too much and I'm just so loud and I'm not. I just like,
That's what we love about you, because you're free and make other people feel that same freedom.
I just feel like I should be, I should be on some small stage somewhere being, playing different roles nightly. But no, it led to joy. So, I mean, am I thankful for it? There are times I regret so much from my past. A lot of the time, I think of the wasted time. And then you're reminded, if I had continued writing, if I had stayed the path, if I had done this, I could have X amount of books maybe published and blah, 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 blah. Or, and I could have been this way and maybe the marriage would have been this way had I, not done this and blah, blah, blah. And because there was a lot I have done such wrong. But the Lord, I know I've said it to you before, the Lord restores the years the locusts have eaten. And that is what looking at yourself does.
I feel that. Yeah. And, I think it's so important to differentiate between like self-deprecating versus taking like a healthy inventory, which is because we can be so hard on ourselves too and seeing every tiny flaw and just like, I don't know, demonizing ourselves by it. But I think it also is very much healthy to take inventory of ourselves as we would other people when we've experienced their actions, especially when they've been harmful and hurtful to us, as a way, and as a means to freedom, from that. And I know for myself too, like, I feel like I'm still very much in that process. And I think it's this idea, and to echo what you said too, that we can't rewrite the beginning, we can't go back in time. It's like we can rewrite right here and the ending, Right, yeah. And obviously, God has the ultimate penmanship.
Yes, he does.
For our lives. However, I think it's what's really beautiful about just the nature of how he works in us and, in our lives is the idea of like death and then life again, because it's like we have morning or night and then morning, you have labor pain and then you have birth and you have like this beautiful child as a result of that. And I think that even we can experience, as you said, like these glimpses of heaven on earth when we've gone through these really dark seasons and really painful seasons, and we see those like resurrected and brought to life. Right. So, and I think that's what makes, the light and goodness even sweeter is when you've been on such an opposite end of the spectrum, and even when it does involve our own actions, which for me can be the hardest. Yes. When I think I look back and realize, wow, I could have out of my own human free will done these million things differently and I could have avoided it,
right.
But sometimes kind of like conflict can be good, not condoning sinful, evil actions. However, I think that those can sometimes be the most pivotal turning points in our lives. And without that, would we really be where we are now and having these eurekas and, realizations?
But I mean, it tells us in the Bible to examine our faith. I think that's exactly what's going on when we do this, the problem is me, might be me. But the wild thing about looking at problems, you have to look at the whole scope of it all.
Yeah.
Which is really intricate because you do see the story of God. Like, I mean, I wrote in this morning, I just said, "Good morning, God." I said, it's so neat to know that you know everything that's going on, and you're working it all out. You know, somehow, when you think about the ultimate penmanship, the ultimate author and perfecter of faith, the idea that he's carrying all these stories around and and this is happening here, even though it looks negative to us, you know, somehow, you know, the Lord is going to bring out those he's called, and he's going to bring them to safety. Now, it may not look like that on earth, but, you know, we're looking at it might be me. We actually, like you said, and I'm just being redundant, but it is so glorious to think of, we're actually looking to him. You know, what is he doing in this? And the fact that he even shows us this, I mean, that's graciousness.
He exposes all of our crap to light.
I mean,
no, I feel
yeah,
this.
I mean, so the idea that we can work on, and I agree with you, the problem with looking at our problems is the enemy gets in there, and or our flesh, and you know, we walk around, I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And then palm to the forehead.
I'm just
over
gonna
and
go
over.
dig my own grave and bury
Yeah,
myself.
or as you did, there's a bat in the car, you know, and it's not flying.
Yeah.
It's not flying, you know.
Oh my gosh.
So it is interesting though that we're like, God is so interesting. We're in community for life, but we're also in community to grow our character. And often it comes at not the expense of others, but it comes with breakups and hardships.
I think it's sometimes really difficult because in relationships really close to us, it can be hard to accept things that they see in us as like, maybe I should look at that. Because it's, for me, it's this, I want to pin it all on them.
Right.
But, you know, I did do something interesting in my last clarity call. It was a serious question. But I asked them, I said, you know, I'm asking in all genuineness, is there something that you notice, like, that I'm doing? Because I would like to work on that for my next one. I did, and I braced myself, and I'm sure over time, you know, things come up for people like, actually, this was the toxic trait I saw. And, you know, he didn't have anything specific, but it really was an honest question. And I think there actually is great power in not necessarily asking that. I'm not saying, it has to be a breakup or a falling out. But I did the same thing last year too with a trusted male from my church, and not someone my age, someone who's like in their elder. Yeah. But, you know,
full of wisdom and a little bit of gray hair.
Well, they're very observant of people, but not in a judgmental, trying to find flaws kind of way. They just naturally observe. They're just naturally observant, and I appreciated a lot of their, you know, thoughts on life and things. And so I forget how I even asked them this question. But essentially what I asked them was, if you were to look at me, you know, since you're observant towards these different people and the different like things you're seeing in this
and people talk
place,
to you. Yeah.
Would I, like, what would your observations be of me? And so I'm not looking for flattery either, like an honest evaluation, because
if I know this person, he never gives flattery.
No, yeah, you do know them.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And one of my questions within the question was, do I look just like I live a secular lifestyle, or do I look? Does it look different, like my conversations and things? What does it say about me?
Right.
And, you know, I remember they wrote back like a page, and it was funny because their words, and then a close friend of mine, hi, Mariah Friedman in Florida.
Yes. Hi, Mariah. We
There's
love you.
people
Come up and
who
see
I
us.
feel like can say things if I ask for it, you know, or open that dialogue. And sometimes I have to digest it and absorb it because I know it's not necessarily going to be what I want to hear, but it's like what I need. And I can get an honest, objective viewpoint to actually see things within myself, but knowing it's from a place of love. But this particular person, I remember wrote back some things and I was like, oh, okay, well, that gives some relief in this aspect. But it was really interesting because another part of like what they brought up, they said, now, I'm treading lightly here with this because I understand the things you write and post on social media. But one of their coworkers mentioned something of, oh, this girl goes to your church. Like she has really kind of not seductive black and white photos, but
wow,
like
suggestive, maybe.
And it's funny because he said that he wasn't seeing it necessarily in that same light, but it was interesting to me. And I actually appreciated the fact that, oh, well, it's funny that someone would say, oh, she goes to your church. You said she goes to your church.
Like, she actually believes in Jesus.
She believes in Jesus. And she's like pouting in a black and white sultry photo. But all that to say, it is interesting and I think even healthy to have people who you can go to and ask for honest opinions of your own self. It's a very vulnerable place. It can be humbling. And I know it's from my friend in Florida. Like she's the type that if I ask something, she's probably the most blunt out of everybody, but yet that's never strained our friendship. I know without a shadow of a doubt she has my back. I have such a bond of trust with her.
Because she's not going to lie to you.
No, she will not lie to me. And there's some things in the past that on Marco Polo, I've told her that I needed to take 24, 48 hours. I'm like, I'm going to like process this and come back to it.
I'm not talking to you.
And at first I'm like, I'm mad. She's wrong. I'm like, dang, they're totally right.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what?
I think it's really
I give you kudos.
No,
I do because you ask a far deeper question. You ask the muscle and the deep heart, the deep soul of the question. Most of us, like myself, I'm shallow. I'll ask, oh, did those words hurt you? Or, should I said that to somebody else? Should I said that aloud? And so it's just kind of the top layer. And I don't ask, I'll probably ask you this question, so get ready. And I'll wait to pose it during a really nice steak dinner or something.
Oh my God.
Out on the town when we have time. Then we laugh. We throw our heads back and laugh. But,
little din out on the town.
Yes.
Downton Grinsborough.
We never did throw those axes like I wanted to.
We get axe throwing sips.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I'm all backwards on my words.
Quite a party.
But no, I don't think I asked the big questions of what do you see in me? What do you recognize me as a Christian? I don't ask those big questions. So I appreciate the fact that
I feel like you're really honest with me though when you ask some of these things to me.
I do.
I sometimes can ask things that I think are too invasive and
No, I love it when you do that. I love it. I mean, it's funny because like I can turn in my first six chapters to your mom and she can really, in the old sense of the word, slay it and tell me they're two-dimensional, I hate them, and I'm like, okay.
With a red ink pen.
That was just two. I think I mentioned on another podcast. It was like 3 sentences, and I'm like, yes, all she did was confirm what I already knew. So I don't think that's moving the bar down anywhere. I think what you ask is moving the bar down. Like, like the question I'll ask you, I think I'm deeply afraid of relationship, deeply afraid of men, deeply afraid of screwing up again. And I say screwing up lightly, me, making the wrong decision, making, not doing as my pastor suggested and be selective, falling back into that habit of being the alpha female. All those things, which I don't think I would do because the nice thing about age is you're just kind of like, okay, if you can't chill out, then, you're not my guy. But I don't know. I'm scared. And I need to ask those hard questions because I think these are things otherwise I'm going to keep walking into, if God gives me more time, walk into who knows what, because I haven't changed any. I mean, I haven't grown where I should have grown.
No, I feel
Yeah,
that. I was
yeah.
like, I've been thinking about that exact topic this week too, you know, like just the idea of, I don't know, just having this fear of messing up again, or even lightly talking to someone where I'm like, nope, I'm going to pull back, go ahead and cut it. And because like it's like you can feel yourself resorting back into the old tendency. But then even if you've grown and changed and see through a different lens, it's where I think it's also important to ask people these questions though, and having an objective viewpoint is sometimes it's not necessarily that you're being shredded like, well, here's the ways you can improve or what I see.
Here's 5 steps.
Here's 5 steps, like a formula, but also in being that reassuring voice. I know we talked about reassurance the other week and like how we can get too much of that, but that's the beauty of having these same trusted, I think, relationships. Because when I was seeking counsel from someone else a few months ago, I know I mentioned this briefly on another podcast. They mentioned that I tended to self-doubt too much. And so it's interesting too, because you have some of the same doubts of the fears of screwing up again, going at it the wrong way, and looking back at all of the things that, you know, collided.
Well, and I mean, I even said to you last night, because we were talking about men whom we dearly love and who, you know, have been some of the best counselors we've ever had in our lives, and whom we respect. But the one thing I said, we were talking about men as in a relationship, and I just looked at you, and this was, I didn't realize it was so late, because you were exhausted, and Lily was exhausted.
We were all
from
sitting in the
homework.
dark.
We were all sitting in the dark eating or having eaten sushi.
And some miso soup.
And the miso was really good. It was so comforting. But I just leaned my head back after a while. I said, sometimes, and we were just thinking of things and talking about it, and I said, sometimes I just don't, it's just a man. It's just, what did I say? It's just too much work.
Yes, I feel that.
And I can't imagine, I mean, I can imagine let's say someone my age, a man, saying, you know, that's just too much. It's just too much. I have to start over again. I have to you know, we have to, I mean, and not now, I mean, now we're talking 62 years, 70 years of life that we have to retell to somebody. It's just like,
here's all my trauma from this era,
yes, and this is how I grew. This is where I fell. You know, it's just like, here, can we just do this in short form? You know, you almost like wish you could download,
like condense it. Here's my PDF of my life.
Here, let's put our palms
Here's
together.
A PowerPoint.
Yes, really, and it's on Canva. It's really good looking.
Got some cool graphics to make you keep your attention longer.
And the music is great. So it just seemed, I was like, where do you even go with that?
But you know,
but it doesn't matter whether you're 25 or 62. Even though I do have a lot more ground to cover, it still feels kind of, and they must feel it too, kind of exhausting.
It is. And like, this is where I think our generational differences are so unique, because we've had such different walks of life, but it's entirely relatable. Because when you said that, exactly my thoughts. Because there have been 2 people who I have not dated, but I just like entertain conversation with it, an acquaintanceship with. And I just immediately, and it turned into nothing, which I was perfectly fine with. But
that's just it. We're perfectly fine.
I'm perfectly fine.
Is there something wrong with us? We are the
I
problem.
thought about the same thing. I'm just like, wow, the investment. And I'm like, even if all the stars align, oh my gosh, it's getting past the barrier of we've got this awkward tension, and I have to establish emotional trust, and then establish the fact that I'm physically and sexually attracted to you, yet have some boundaries, yet also don't want to cross them too much, but also like want to know that I'm loved. And oh my gosh, I'm just like, can I get a USB to my mind?
Really? It's just like, can we just go straight to the chase?
But,
someone matchmake us, and then we start on a nice honeymoon.
That could be a cool podcast. We could submit ourselves to TLC and actually, it is a TLC matchmaking thing.
You mean the TV channel is still around?
TLC?
It's still around?
With toddlers and tiaras and 90 Day Fiancé?
Darling, I gave up the cable. I gave up the cable years ago.
I don't have cable. I just...
That's right. You use... Yeah,
I watch cringe reality when I house sit for you.
Do I have it on my
Or
TV?
documentaries of dead Hollywood stars.
I know, which is very fascinating. But I have it on my TV upstairs.
I believe so. Yeah, TLC.
Oh, yeah. We'll just submit our
Yeah.
It is even then that's too hard.
It is too hard.
No. So tell me about it. So what should we do? Because the problem of looking at your pain, the problem that you are the pain, that you are the problem, is okay. What do you do after you discover and you want to move out? It's the problem of I just don't want to redo. I've done like I'm going to mess this up.
I think it's interesting because I think when you actually like realize the things within yourself, the only way is to literally go through it, like realizing what you know. Yeah. But also I think I don't think healing is a 5-step thing and it's done. I think it's perfectly natural and normal to experience the same thought process. But I think even the awareness of your own self and your tendencies and your downfalls and being honest about them with God and with other people is really powerful, because it's kind of when you're walking in the unknown and just navigating life and relationships on autopilot without the realization or awareness of, how you could potentially be sabotaging something is more of the
do you think but I have feel this? Because I wonder.
I don't know if they're aware enough to sometimes. Woo! Some of them. Sorry, I'm not sexist.
Yeah, no.
I love men.
I think there are men who are just, particularly, okay, I hate to say, even given your age and my age, we've already developed histories. Yeah. And I'm sorry about that. But you haven't developed one that is as shady as mine. I don't even know. Seriously, can I just make the movie?
Not too right.
But even to make the movie, you'd have to write the screenplay, and there'd be a lot of editing that had to happen. So it could be PG. Unfortunately, I don't say that with pride. It's just, you wonder if they're feeling the same things we are. And I think that would be if we have men listening. I don't care your age. Please give us some commentary on that, because we need to know if these are strictly female thoughts. I don't think they are. Because it was a man who was saying it in that video.
Yeah, and there are some men who I've both met platonically and romantically who are very inward. And there was one in particular who I was super fascinated by how introspective they were, and they actually were honest with me and telling me what kind of man they wanted to become, down to like they listened to podcasts, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And then just in conversations with others,
even our editor, videographer, musician, creative extraordinaire, he's very introspective.
Yeah.
I think we are not giving 50% of the population, if men are still 50% of the population. I don't think we're giving them the right shake they deserve. Because I do think there are a lot of men out there who are looking at wanting to be great family men, wanting to be great husbands. I just saw a post of a friend of mine. Her name is Amy Terry. She's wonderful. And she's posted about her husband, about what a leader he was for his family. And what a joy, and it was his birthday, but what a leader and a great love he had for her and his family. And they've been married for a very long time. And the idea that I know she's not just painting a picture, that she is very real and honest. I think we become jaded over a season, and we have to be careful of that. That's part of our problem, is
Isn't we like hyper romanticize stuff?
well, not even hyper romanticize. I think we hyper jadalize.
That
Whatever
seems
that
through
means.
a like jaded lens.
Yeah,
like,
I
and
think we
tainted.
put
Yep.
the black and white, grainy, sultry photo on it and rack it off as, oh, they're not like us.
Yeah.
They're all just
And we don't see ourselves through the same filter.
yeah, it's just
Well,
shameful.
I think men and women both, I think, okay, this is my experience with some men, as they will identify things inwardly, but want to like fix it. I think so often we see the introspection even of our own selves as something to fix, whereas I think it's a process. And I think even in dealing with introspective men, sometimes there's this tendency to have a formula to fix it. Not all the time though, whereas it's a process. It really is like training for a marathon or something. Like you don't just suddenly wake up and you're ready to run and cross, even if you've been running for 5 years. Like you have, there's specific things your muscles have to undergo in the fatigue. There's errors you're going to encounter. And, I think we live in a world where we put lists and step-by-step instructions on things. See it as a manual. And I think it's really important as humans, men and women both, because women, I think, can do it to men. Like, oh, well, they're introspective and they're open and honest about who they are. But we also want to like, we all have this like, I think, idealized version of each other in our heads.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's not necessarily a, sped up process of that because we're works in progress. And I think it's like you have to undergo and like put stress on that, kind of like putting stress on a muscle. You have to endure certain situations where it brings up to light these things you deal with, and then practicing over time, dealing with them in a different, healthier way.
I think what you're
even if you mess
saying
up.
is like what the Lord says, what Good Celebrate Recovery and AA says is one day at a time. You live this day that's given you. As my father would say, my earthly father would say, this gift of life, this day given to me, this gift of life. So we live this gift of life before us as best as we can, following what the Lord Jesus Christ, taught us, and what the Bible teaches us, from Genesis 1:1 to the end of Revelation. That there is hope, and there's restoration, and the Lord is working in us now. He's working strongly, mightily. Even the rain falls on the unbeliever as well as the believer. So He's working, but at the same time, we're not reaching the Insta influencer check mark list. We are walking in that word over there, hope, that He is doing it for us. He's working this out in us, and we're going to live the day as best we can, right?
I think
as
so.
imperfect people who He's going to make perfect,
Yeah, and I love what you said earlier towards the beginning of our conversation when you mentioned just wanting to be seen, because I look at the root of everybody's, inner crap show, but I really think that at the end of the day we all want to be seen so badly, and we want others to see us for who we really are. We don't know how to express it, and then it's like we have all of this like
awkward falling over,
yes, and like
like
facade we build,
toddlers,
and we're never just honest about like what we want, what we need, and who we are, and we end up building all of this like almost suit of armor to protect ourselves, or like just those things we realize in those moments of maybe, as I sit here in my living room in the dark, maybe I'm the problem. And I think I think we want to be seen so badly. I do. I identify with that as soon as you said it. It was just like a fleeting thought you said. But
you want to be seen, but you don't.
Past.
It's like, see, no. I mean, it's like, yes, no.
I feel naked and vulnerable. Where's my armor?
Really? No, you saw too much.
Oh, you saw too much. Yeah.
And that's my hesitation for being out loud and loud and rowdy. It's like, but then I realize that's my personality. I'm loud and rowdy. Except for I do have my very inward times, but I do like that. I like it. So the really, to kind of wrap it up, the problem is us, but we have to work through the layers of all that's going on, and we just have to trust the Lord, like I did walking, just we trust that he's doing this in us, and we may not have the answer for that day, but we wake up in the morning, not have the answer, and else, and boom, the answer, or we may have to wait years.
Well, I love
You know.
is it the psalm that's, oh Lord, you search me and you know me. Oh man. Yeah.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
powerful.
Yeah, because when we're known by him, I think that is the peace. I think that's the moral of the story, is ultimately what our hearts are wanting is to be known, like you said.
To be known, we have to be exposed and gutted a little bit too.
Right.
But
and by doing that, we get to the greater thing. The peace that surpasses all understanding, guarding our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And I was even thinking about, just quickly, remember that whole uncovering thing? Because I'm right there right now. I'm not in Bible recap right now. I'm in Ezekiel, which is actually an amazing book. When you look at it's kind of like a retelling of everything. It's like Genesis to Revelation in a wild, beautiful, wonky way. Wonky way of the Lord. It's just neat.
Wonky in the Lord. That's a book.
Yeah, Wonky in the Lord. But and I forgot what I was going to say. It was genius.
I'm sorry.
What was I going to say?
Oh my gosh, was that my fault that I just cut you off?
No. I went on my end game line on Ezekiel, but
Oh my gosh,
no. I just think he's working it all out. From the beginning to end, just like he does the word, and we just trust in him. But I was saying something, and it will come to me, and I will write.
We can just sit here for a moment. Dylan can cut out our Okay.
What was I talking about
Okay, we talked
beforehand?
about the psalm. Then you said that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I remember the whole thing with Ruth and Boaz, because I know there's this whole cultural thing about her uncovering his feet and all this. But you think about it. They use that word uncovering. I'm sure it translates into, something interesting Hebrew-wise. And that ultimately, the uncovering is what leads us to restoration and wholeness,
Ooh,
So,
that's good.
I don't know. I don't remember all the historical context behind that. But the idea of being uncovered, showing, because that was an aggressive move. I recall as a female, but she was kind of being alpha female. Naomi said, "Come on, girl, let's do this." But by doing that, it was within the confines of Naomi's faith, and she had trust in Naomi, and she did. And she had trust in Boaz, otherwise she wouldn't. They all trusted Boaz, and Boaz is a very Christ-like figure. But she uncovered. So the idea of uncovering all that stuff that we have to uncover leads us to wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Be bare and vulnerable. Oh, I echo these thoughts entirely. It's like you have to expose yourself. Like if you're wearing a suit of armor, you're covering and protected from all of your, soft, weak spots, but you're not going to be able to receive love. You're going to be so limited in your range of motion, but
and that's not
stripping
really
it off
living.
is to be naked and vulnerable, but
it doesn't lead to life.
It doesn't.
It just leads to protection, like you said.
Yep.
So the moral of the story: live today.
Yeah.
You're the problem, but the problem God is using for you to get to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we work this out?
I think so. Do you think so?
I think so.
I mean, it's a process too. It's not.
What do you think about me?
Oh, here's the answer to everyone's problems. But yeah,
Anna Gray,
I subscribe to these thoughts.
Will you tell me what you see in me and what I need to work on?
Oh my gosh! Don't ask me that publicly.
Sure, let's expose it. No. I think it's a wrap.
We should ask each other the same question.
Let's do.
You can go first for me. No, I'm
no, not now. No. We'll do that.
Look, now it's the truth. No.
I was like,
that was very Smeagol of you.
It was? Oh, it is.
Because he goes back and forth.
Thank you.
We just need to rock back and forth.
Yeah, and eat raw fish.
Naked in a cave.
Eat raw fish.
We need just a Lord of the Rings themed episode. I'll dress as Gandalf.
Can I just say, hint, October Halloween special.
Oh, our thoughts are more. To be continued. That's good clickbait right there.
Hey, I'm Renee Leonard Kennedy.
And I'm Anna Gray Smith.
And we make up
Moral Tea Podcast.
Yes, we're so glad that you're listening to us, and we want to encourage you to like and subscribe at
Moral Tea Podcast on YouTube,
at pray.com,
and Instagram at Moral Tea Podcast.
Yes.
We will catch you every Monday.
Bye.
Peace.